The blood on her torn dress caught his attention first, spreading dark crimson against the pale blue fabric as she lay crumpled beside the dusty trail just outside Muskogee, Oklahoma. Grant Dawson pulled his horse to a stop, his hand instinctively moving to the pistol at his hip before he recognized the figure as a woman, not the bandits he had been tracking for the past 3 days. The August heat of 1878 beat down mercilessly on the red dirt trail, and he could see the woman was barely conscious, her breathing shallow and labored. He dismounted quickly, his boots hitting the ground with a soft thud as he approached cautiously. "Madam." His voice was low and steady, the same tone he used to calm spooked horses. "Can you hear me?" Her eyes fluttered open, revealing green irises clouded with pain and fear. She tried to pull away from him, her fingers scrabbling weakly in the dust. "Easy now," Grant said, kneeling beside her. "I am not going to hurt you. Looks like someone else already did plenty of that." Up close, he could see she was young, probably in her early 20s, with auburn hair that had come loose from its pins, and now lay matted with dust and blood. Her face was bruised, and through the torn fabric of her dress he could see a deep gash along her left side, still bleeding freely. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "They took my wagon, my trunk, everything. Who did this to you?" Grant asked, already pulling his canteen from his belt and lifting it to her lips. She drank greedily, water spilling down her chin. "3 men, maybe 4, I do not know. They came out of nowhere when I stopped to rest my horses. I tried to fight them, but—" Her voice trailed off as tears began streaming down her dusty cheeks. Grant felt anger surge through him, hot and fierce. He had seen plenty of violence in his 30 years, had fought in range wars and dealt with cattle rustlers, but attacking a lone woman on the trail was the lowest form of cowardice he could imagine. "What is your name?" he asked gently, tearing a strip from his own shirt to make a bandage. "Clara." "Clara Morrison." She winced as he began wrapping the cloth around her injured side. "I was traveling to Muskogee from Fort Smith. My aunt runs a boarding house there. She is expecting me." "Well, Miss Morrison, my name is Grant Dawson, and I am going to get you to Muskogee safe and sound. But first, I need to get this bleeding stopped properly." He worked quickly but carefully, his rough hands surprisingly gentle as he cleaned and dressed her wound with supplies from his saddlebag. Clara bit her lip to keep from crying out, her nails digging into the dirt. She watched him through half-closed eyes, taking in his weathered face, the sun lines around his blue eyes, the dark brown hair that curled slightly beneath his hat. "Thank you," she breathed when he finished. "I thought I was going to die out here." "Not today," Grant said firmly. "Can you ride?" "My horse can carry us both to town. It is only about 5 miles from here." Clara tried to sit up and immediately gasped in pain, falling back against Grant's supporting arm. "I am sorry. I feel so weak." "You have lost a lot of blood. That is normal." Grant considered their situation. The sun was already past its zenith, and he knew the temperature would remain brutal for hours yet. Getting Clara to safety quickly was essential, but moving her too roughly could make her injuries worse. He made a decision. "I am going to lift you up onto my horse. It is going to hurt, and I am sorry for that, but we need to get you to a doctor." Clara nodded, her face pale beneath the grime and bruises. When Grant lifted her, she did cry out, unable to hold it back, and he felt her body go rigid with pain before she slumped against him. "That is it. Just hold on to me," he murmured, settling her carefully in front of the saddle before swinging up behind her. He kept one arm wrapped securely around her waist, holding her steady against his chest while the other hand took the reins. The ride to Muskogee felt endless. Clara drifted in and out of consciousness. sometimes making small sounds of pain when the horse's gait jostled her injuries. Grant talked to her the whole way, his deep voice steady and reassuring, telling her about the town they were heading to, about the good doctor there named Samuel Henderson who would fix her up properly. "You are going to be just fine," he kept saying. "Stay awake now. Tell me about yourself." "Where are you from originally?" "Tennessee," Clara murmured. "Nashville. My parents died last winter, influenza. My aunt wrote to me, said she could give me a home, a job helping run her boarding house." "What did you do in Nashville?" "I taught music. Piano, mostly." Her voice was getting stronger, which Grant took as a good sign. "Do you know if Muskogee has a school?" "It does. And a church that could probably use someone who can play piano. The current organist is about 90 years old and half deaf, makes for some interesting Sunday services." Despite her pain, Clara made a sound that might have been a laugh. "What do you do, Mr. Dawson?" "Grant. Just Grant. And I run cattle mostly, have a ranch about 10 miles outside town. Also do some work for the marshal when he needs extra hands." "Were you tracking those men?" "The ones who attacked me." Grant hesitated. The truth was, he had been tracking a gang suspected of rustling cattle from several ranches in the area, but they might well be the same men who had attacked Clara. "Possibly. Can you describe them?" Clara's body tensed and he felt her heart rate quicken against his arm. "The leader had a scar, right here." She touched her own cheek, indicating a line from temple to jaw. "Dark hair, dark eyes, mean. The others I did not see as clearly. They all wore bandanas." "That sounds like Jake Reeves and his gang," Grant said grimly. "They have been causing trouble around these parts for months. Marshall has been trying to catch them, but they are slippery." "Why would they attack me? I had nothing valuable, just clothes and a few books." "My mother's jewelry, but that was not worth more than $50. Some men do not need a reason beyond the fact that they can," Grant said. "But you fought back. That took courage." "I do not feel very courageous," Clara whispered. "I was so scared. I am still scared." "Being scared and doing what needs doing anyway, that is what courage really is," Grant told her. "Anyone who tells you different is either a liar or a fool." They crested a low rise, and Muskogee spread out before them, a growing town of perhaps 500 souls clustered along the banks of the Arkansas River. The main street was wide and lined with wooden buildings, some painted, some weathered bare. A church steeple rose above the other structures, and Grant could see people moving about their business despite the heat. "Almost there," he said to Clara, feeling her body sag with relief against him. He rode straight to the doctor's office, which occupied a small building near the center of town. Several people stopped to stare as he passed, and he knew the gossip would be flying within minutes. A single man riding into town with an injured woman in his arms would provide fodder for speculation for weeks. "Doc Henderson," Grant called out as he reined in his horse in front of the office. "Doc, I need you." The door opened immediately, and a silver-haired man in shirt-sleeves stepped out, his keen eyes taking in the situation instantly. "Bring her inside, quickly." Grant dismounted carefully, then lifted Clara down into his arms. She had lost consciousness again, her head lolling against his shoulder. He carried her into the cool dimness of the doctor's office and laid her gently on the examination table. "What happened?" Doc Henderson asked, already examining Clara's injuries. "Found her on the trail about 5 miles out. She was attacked, robbed. I did what I could to stop the bleeding, but she needs proper care." The doctor nodded, his expression grave as he cut away Clara's makeshift bandages. "You did good work here, Grant. Probably saved her life, but she is going to need stitches, and she has lost a lot of blood." "You say she was attacked. By who?" She described Jake Reeves. Said there were 3 or 4 men. Doc Henderson's jaw tightened. That scum. When is the marshal going to do something about him? Marshal Tucker is doing his best, but Reeves has friends, you know how it is. Grant watched as the doctor began preparing to stitch Clara's wound. She has an aunt here in town, runs a boarding house. That would be Martha Morrison. Good woman, someone should fetch her. The doctor glanced up at Grant. You planning to stick around? Grant found himself nodding before he had consciously decided to. For a while, at least. Want to make sure she is all right. Then make yourself useful. I need hot water, clean towels, and you can ride over to Martha's place. It is the two-story house at the end of Oak Street, painted yellow with white trim. Tell her what happened. The next hour passed in a blur of activity. Grant fetched Martha Morrison, a stout woman in her 50s with Clara's same auburn hair streaked with gray. She cried out when she saw her niece lying pale and unconscious on the examination table, but quickly pulled herself together and began helping the doctor. Thank you for bringing her to us, Martha said to Grant, her eyes red with tears. If you had not found her. She is strong, Grant said, surprising himself with the certainty in his voice. He barely knew this woman, but something about the way she had tried to fight back, the determination he had seen in her eyes even through the pain, told him she was a survivor. She is going to be just fine. Doc Henderson finished stitching the wound and stepped back. She needs rest now, lots of it, and liquids when she wakes. She will be weak for several days, maybe longer. That gash was deep. I will take care of her, Martha promised. Can she be moved? I would like to bring her home. Not today. Let her rest here until tomorrow at least. I want to watch for infection. The doctor covered Clara with a clean sheet and turned to Grant. You should go see Marshal Tucker. Tell him what happened. Maybe this time he will finally go after Reeves proper. Grant nodded, but he found himself reluctant to leave. He stood looking down at Clara's pale face, peaceful now in unconsciousness, and felt something shift inside his chest. He had seen plenty of injured people before, had helped more than his share of folks in trouble, but this felt different somehow. Go on, Martha said gently, seeing his hesitation. I will sit with her. And thank you again, Mr. Dawson. You are a good man. Marshal Tucker was in his office, feet propped up on his desk as he read through a stack of wanted posters. He was a heavy-set man in his late 50s, with a thick gray mustache and sharp eyes that missed little. Grant, he greeted, dropping his feet to the floor. What brings you to town on such a fine hot day? Grant told him everything, watching the marshal's expression grow darker with each detail. When he finished, Tucker stood and walked to the window, staring out at the street. Reeves is getting bolder, he said finally. First cattle, now attacking lone women on the trail. Something needs to be done. Then let me help, Grant said. I can track them. I know these hills as well as anyone. I know you can, and I appreciate the offer, but we need to do this legal. I will form a proper posse, get a judge to issue warrants. Tucker turned back to face him. Besides, seems to me you might have a reason to stay in town for a while. Martha Morrison will need help looking after her niece. I barely know the woman, Grant protested, but even he could hear how weak it sounded. Then get to know her. She is going to need friends after what she has been through. Trauma like that, it does not just heal with stitches and bandages. The marshal sat back down with a sigh. Go on. Get yourself a room at the hotel, get cleaned up. I will start organizing a posse. We will ride out at first light. Grant did as suggested, taking a room at the Muskogee Hotel and scrubbing off the trail dust in the bathhouse. He put on clean clothes from his saddlebag and checked on his horse at the livery, making sure the animal was properly fed and watered. All the while, his thoughts kept circling back to Clara Morrison and the fear he had seen in her green eyes. By the time he returned to the doctor's office, evening was approaching, the brutal heat finally beginning to fade. Martha Morrison met him at the door. "She woke up about an hour ago," Martha said quietly. "She has been asking for you, for me." Grant was surprised. "Why?" "She wants to thank you properly, and I think she feels safer with you near. Come on, but do not stay too long. She needs rest." Clara was propped up on pillows, her face still pale but her eyes clear and focused. She smiled weakly when Grant entered. "Mr. Dawson," she said. "They told me you saved my life." "Just did what anyone would do," Grant said, suddenly feeling awkward. He took off his hat and held it in both hands. "How are you feeling?" "Like I was trampled by a stampede, but alive. That is what matters." Her smile faded. "Did the marshal catch those men?" "Not yet, but he is forming a posse. We ride out in the morning." Fear flickered across Clara's face. "They are dangerous. What if they hurt someone else? What if they hurt you? I can take care of myself. And they need to be stopped before they do hurt someone else." Grant moved closer to the bed. "Try not to worry. Just focus on getting better." Clara reached out and took his hand, her grip surprisingly strong. "Promise me you will be careful. I could not bear it if something happened to you because of me." Her touch sent an unexpected warmth through Grant's chest. He looked down at their joined hands, her slender fingers wrapped around his calloused palm. "I promise," he heard himself say. They stayed like that for a moment, connected in the lamplight, before Martha gently cleared her throat. "Clara needs her rest now, Mr. Dawson." Grant reluctantly pulled his hand away. "I will come check on you when I get back." "I will be waiting," Clara said softly. "Be safe, Grant." Hearing his given name on her lips felt intimate somehow, personal in a way that made his heart beat faster. He nodded and left quickly before he could say or do something foolish. The posse gathered at dawn. 8 men, including Grant and Marshal Tucker. They rode out following the trail where Grant had found Clara, looking for any sign of Reeves and his gang. Grant led the way, reading the tracks and broken brush with practiced ease. 4 horses heading northeast, he reported. "Moving fast but not too careful. They are not expecting anyone to come after them." "Good," Tucker said. "Let us teach them the error of their ways." They tracked the gang for 2 days, following them deeper into the hills where the terrain grew rougher and the trees thicker. Grant pushed them hard, driven by a burning need to bring these men to justice. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Clara's injured body lying in the dust, saw the fear and pain in her eyes. On the afternoon of the 2nd day, they found the gang's camp in a narrow canyon. Reeves and 3 other men sat around a fire, passing a bottle between them and laughing. Clara's trunk lay open nearby, her belongings scattered carelessly across the ground. Marshal Tucker positioned his men carefully, surrounding the camp on 3 sides before giving the signal. "Jake Reeves," he called out, his voice echoing off the canyon walls. "This is Marshal Tucker. You are under arrest for robbery and assault. Throw down your weapons and come out peaceful." The response was immediate. The gang members dove for their guns, and the air filled with the crack of gunfire. Grant dropped behind a boulder, his rifle raised, and fired at one of the men trying to flank their position. The bullet caught the outlaw in the shoulder, spinning him around. The fight was brief but intense. One gang member went down wounded, another threw down his gun and raised his hands in surrender. Reeves and the remaining outlaw tried to reach their horses, but Marshal Tucker cut them off. "Do not make me shoot you, Jake," Tucker warned. "It is over." Reeves looked around, saw he was surrounded, and slowly lowered his pistol. "You got no proof we did anything wrong. We got the testimony of your victim, we got stolen property, and we got you dead to rights." Tucker gestured to his deputies. "Tie them up. We are taking them back to stand trial." Grant walked over to Clara's trunk and began gathering her scattered belongings. A leather-bound book caught his eye, its pages filled with musical notation in elegant handwriting. He held it carefully, imagining Clara bent over it, composing music. It felt personal, intimate, and he found himself wanting to know everything about her. The return journey to Muskogee took another 2 days. The captured outlaws were sullen and uncooperative, but Grant barely paid them attention. His thoughts were fixed on Clara, wondering how she was recovering, whether she would be glad to see him. They rode into town in the afternoon, leading their prisoners straight to the jail. A crowd gathered quickly, and Grant saw Martha Morrison pushing through the people. "You caught them," she said, her voice tight with emotion. "Thank God. Does Clara know?" "I was hoping you could tell her," Grant said. "How is she?" "Improving every day. She has been worried sick about you. Come see her as soon as you can." Grant helped Marshal Tucker process the prisoners, giving his statement and turning over the recovered property. By the time he finished, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. He walked to Martha's boarding house with his heart beating faster than it had when facing down armed outlaws. The house was exactly as the doctor had described, a 2-story structure with neat yellow paint and white trim. Flower boxes lined the windows, overflowing with petunias and marigolds. Grant climbed the porch steps and knocked on the door. Martha answered immediately, as if she had been waiting. "She is in the parlor. Go on in." Clara sat in a cushioned chair near the window, a quilt draped over her legs despite the warm evening. She looked up when Grant entered, and her face transformed with a brilliant smile that made his breath catch. "You are back," she said. "You are safe. I have been so worried." "I am fine," Grant assured her, crossing the room to kneel beside her chair so their eyes were level. "And Reeves is in jail along with his men. They cannot hurt you or anyone else." Tears began streaming down Clara's face. "I cannot believe it. I thought after everything they would just get away with it, that no one would care." "I care," Grant said fiercely. "What they did to you was wrong, and they are going to pay for it." Clara reached out and cupped his face with her hand, her palm soft against his rough cheek. "You are a remarkable man, Grant Dawson. Do you know that?" He could not speak, could barely breathe with her touching him so tenderly. They stayed frozen like that, eyes locked, until Martha's voice broke the moment. "Supper is ready. I made chicken and dumplings, and I expect you both to eat plenty." Over the meal, Grant told them about tracking the gang and the brief firefight at their camp. Clara listened intently, her green eyes never leaving his face. "You could have been killed," she said quietly, "but I was not, and now you can rest easy knowing they are behind bars, only because of you." Clara set down her fork and looked at him seriously. "Grant, I need you to understand something. Before you found me, I had given up. I thought I was going to die there on that trail, alone and afraid. But then you came, and you were so calm, so capable. You made me feel like everything was going to be all right." "I just did what needed doing," Grant said, uncomfortable with her praise. "No," Clara insisted. "It was more than that. You showed me what courage means. Real courage, not the kind you read about in books. The kind that shows up when someone needs help and does not ask for anything in return." Grant felt heat rise in his cheeks. "You showed courage too. You fought back against 4 armed men. That takes guts." "I was terrified the entire time. Like I said before, that is what courage is, being afraid and doing it anyway." Grant reached across the table and took her hand. "You are one of the strongest people I have ever met, Clara Morrison." She laughed, a real laugh this time, warm and genuine. "We have known each other less than a week, and already you think you know me. I know what I saw, and I would like to know more if you will let me." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Martha stood abruptly. "I will go get dessert," she announced, leaving them alone. "Grant," Clara said softly. "Are you saying what I think you are saying? I am saying I would like to call on you properly. Get to know you. See where this goes." Grant took a breath. "I know it is fast. I know we barely know each other, but I have not been able to stop thinking about you since I found you on that trail, and not just because I was worried. There is something about you, Clara, something that draws me." "I feel it too," she admitted. "I thought maybe it was just because you saved my life that I was confusing gratitude with something else. But it is more than that, is it not?" "I think it is," Grant agreed. "But we should take our time. Do this right. You are still recovering and you have been through a trauma. I do not want to rush you into anything." Clara squeezed his hand. "What if I want to be rushed? What if I feel like I have been waiting my whole life to meet someone like you?" "Then we will take it slow anyway," Grant said firmly. "Because I want this to be real, not just some emotional reaction to what happened. You deserve that, we both do." She smiled and he saw respect in her eyes. "You are right. We will do this properly, but Grant, I am very glad you found me on that trail. So am I." The next few weeks passed in a gentle rhythm that felt almost dreamlike. Grant visited Clara every day, sometimes staying for hours as they talked and got to know each other. He learned that she had studied music at a conservatory in Nashville, that she loved reading poetry and walking in the rain, that she had always wanted to travel west, but never had the courage before her parents died. Clara learned that Grant had been born in Texas, that he had worked on cattle drives since he was 15, that he had saved for years to buy his ranch and build it into something successful. She learned that he was gentle with animals and children, that he read the newspaper cover to cover every week to stay informed, that he had a dry sense of humor that caught her off guard and made her laugh. She also learned that he was patient. Even as she grew stronger and the doctor pronounced her fully healed, Grant maintained a respectful distance. He held her hand during their walks through town, but never tried to steal a kiss. He helped her aunt with repairs around the boarding house, but always left before dark to maintain propriety. "He is courting you the old-fashioned way," Martha observed one evening after Grant had left. "That man has serious intentions." "I hope so," Clara said. "Because I am falling in love with him." "Have you told him?" "Not yet. I am waiting for the right moment." That moment came on a warm September evening, 6 weeks after they first met. Grant took Clara on a picnic to a spot overlooking the Arkansas River, spreading a blanket under a massive oak tree. The sky was painted gold and pink with sunset, and the air smelled of grass and wildflowers. "This is beautiful," Clara breathed, taking in the view. "How did you find this place?" "I used to come here when I was first building my ranch. When things got hard, I would ride out here and remind myself why I was doing it all." Grant unpacked the basket of food Martha had prepared. "The land out here, it is so big and open, makes you feel small but in a good way. Like your problems are not as overwhelming as they seemed." They ate and talked as the sun sank lower, discussing everything from politics to philosophy to their hopes for the future. Clara felt happier than she had in years, maybe ever. The trauma of the attack had faded to a manageable memory, and the future spread before her bright with possibility. "Clara," Grant said suddenly, "there is something I need to tell you." His serious tone made her heart skip. "What is it?" "I have been thinking a lot about the future. About what I want, and the truth is, I cannot imagine it without you." He took both her hands in his. "I know we have not known each other long. I know people will say we are rushing things. But I also know what I feel, and I have never been more certain of anything in my life." "Grant," Clara whispered, hardly daring to hope. "I love you, Clara Morrison. I think I have loved you since that first moment on the trail when you looked at me with such trust, even though you had every reason to be afraid." You are brave and beautiful and smart and kind, and I want to spend the rest of my life proving to you that I am worthy of your love." Tears spilled down Clara's cheeks. "You already have proven it, every day in 100 small ways. And I love you too, Grant Dawson. So much it scares me sometimes." "You do not need to be scared anymore," he promised. "I will always keep you safe." "It is not that kind of scared," Clara said with a watery laugh. "It is the kind where you realize your whole life just changed and you cannot go back, and you do not want to, but it is still overwhelming." Grant smiled and gently wiped the tears from her cheeks. "Is it the good kind of overwhelming, the very best kind?" He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted, but Clara met him halfway. Their first kiss was gentle and sweet, tasting of hope and promise. When they finally broke apart, both were smiling. "I want to marry you," Grant said. "If you will have me. I know I am just a rancher and I cannot offer you the kind of life you had in Nashville, but I will work hard every day to make you happy." "Yes," Clara said immediately. "Yes, absolutely yes. And Grant, I do not want the life I had in Nashville. I want this life here with you." They kissed again, deeper this time, and Clara felt like her heart might burst with joy. Everything she had been through, all the pain and fear and loss, had led her to this moment, to this man. She would not change a single thing if it meant ending up anywhere else. When they returned to Martha's boarding house that evening, Grant asked formally for Clara's hand, and Martha cried happy tears as she gave her blessing. They decided to wait until December to marry, giving Clara time to fully recover and to help plan a proper wedding. Those 3 months were the happiest of Clara's life. She taught piano lessons at the local school, quickly becoming popular with students and parents alike. She played organ at the church on Sundays, filling the small building with beautiful music that had people talking about the new organist who played like an angel. Grant visited every day that work allowed, and on Sundays after church, they would take long walks together, talking about their plans for the future. He told her about his ranch, about the house he had built with his own hands, about the cattle and horses and the good grazing land he had spent years acquiring. "It is not fancy," he warned. "Just a simple ranch house with 4 rooms, but it is sturdy and the land is good. We can grow together, build something lasting." "It sounds perfect," Clara assured him. "I do not need fancy, I just need you." The trial of Jake Reeves and his gang took place in October. Clara had to testify, which brought back the fear and trauma of that day on the trail. But Grant sat in the courtroom holding her hand, and every time she felt her courage wavering, she looked at him and remembered what he had told her about real courage. The jury found all 4 men guilty. Reeves was sentenced to 15 years in prison, his accomplices to 10 each. When the verdict was read, Clara felt a weight lift from her shoulders. It was finally, truly over. "You did good," Grant told her afterwards, pulling her into his arms right there on the courthouse steps. "I am so proud of you." "I could not have done it without you," Clara said. "You give me strength, Grant." "No," he corrected gently. "The strength was always there. I just helped you see it." Their wedding took place on a crisp December morning in the same church where Clara played organ every Sunday. Martha had outdone herself with the arrangements, decorating the building with pine boughs and white ribbons. Half the town turned out for the ceremony, eager to celebrate the union of the cowboy who had saved the injured woman and the brave teacher who had helped put dangerous criminals behind bars. Clara wore a simple white dress that Martha had sewn with lace at the collar and cuffs. Grant wore his best suit, his hair freshly cut and his boots polished to a shine. When he saw Clara walking down the aisle toward him, his eyes filled with tears. "Dearly beloved," the minister began, and Clara felt like her heart was so full it might overflow. This was really happening. She was marrying Grant Dawson, the man who had saved her life and then taught her how to truly live. They exchanged vows in strong, clear voices, promising to love and honor each other all their days. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Grant kissed Clara with such tenderness that several people in the congregation sighed audibly. The reception was held at Martha's boarding house, with tables set up in the yard and food enough to feed an army. There was music and dancing and laughter, and Clara had never felt so surrounded by love and community. Even Marshal Tucker came, bringing a set of silver candlesticks as a wedding gift. "You two are good for each other," he told them. "And good for this town. We need more people like you." As evening fell and guests began to depart, Grant helped Clara into the wagon he had decorated with ribbons and bells. They were heading to his ranch to begin their new life together. "Ready?" he asked, taking the reins. "More than ready," Clara assured him, snuggling close to his side. The ranch was everything Grant had described and more. The house sat on a gentle rise overlooking a valley, with mountains visible in the distance. It was simple but well built, with a wide porch and windows that would let in plenty of light. Inside, Grant had cleaned and prepared everything, setting out fresh flowers and making sure there was wood stacked for the fireplace. "Welcome home, Mrs. Dawson," he said, carrying Clara over the threshold. "Home," Clara repeated, loving the sound of it. "Our home." That night, as they lay together in the bed Grant had made with his own hands, Clara felt a peace she had never known. She traced the line of Grant's jaw with her finger, marveling at how her life had changed. "What are you thinking?" Grant asked, capturing her hand and kissing her palm. "I am thinking about the day you found me," Clara said, "about how I thought my life was ending, but really it was just beginning." "We have both been given a gift," Grant agreed. "A second chance. I will not waste it. Neither will I." They made love slowly, tenderly, learning each other's bodies and hearts with equal care. And when Clara finally fell asleep in Grant's arms, she dreamed of the future they would build together. Life on the ranch was hard work, but Clara threw herself into it with enthusiasm. She learned to cook on the wood stove, to tend the chickens and gather eggs, to help Grant with the cattle when he needed an extra pair of hands. She set up a small music room in one of the bedrooms, giving lessons to children from nearby ranches twice a week. Grant proved to be everything she had hoped for in a husband. He was patient with her mistakes as she learned ranch life, always ready with encouragement and gentle instruction. He supported her teaching, proud when her students performed well. And every night, no matter how tired they both were, they made time to sit together and talk about their day. Winter passed into spring, and spring into summer. Clara's face gained healthy color from working outdoors, and she grew strong from the physical labor. Grant added 2 more rooms to the house, planning for the family they both wanted. In August, 1 year after Grant had found Clara on that dusty trail, she confirmed what she had suspected for weeks. She was pregnant. "A baby," Grant breathed when she told him, his face transforming with joy. "We are going to have a baby." "Are you happy?" Clara asked, though she could see the answer in his eyes. Happy does not begin to cover it. Grant swept her up in his arms and spun her around, making her laugh. "You have made me the happiest man in Oklahoma, probably in the whole country." "Put me down before you drop me," Clara protested, but she was laughing too hard to sound serious. Grant set her down gently and immediately dropped to his knees, pressing his ear against her still flat stomach. "Hello in there, little one. This is your father speaking. We cannot wait to meet you." Tears streamed down Clara's face as she ran her fingers through Grant's hair. This moment, this perfect happiness, felt almost too good to be true. And yet it was real. She was really here in this life she had built with the man she loved, about to bring a new life into the world. The pregnancy progressed smoothly through the fall and into the winter. Clara continued teaching until December, when she became too uncomfortable to make the ride into town. Grant fussed over her constantly, insisting she rest and not overwork herself. "I am pregnant, not dying," Clara would protest, but secretly she loved his attention. Martha came to stay with them 2 weeks before the baby was due, bringing her knowledge and calm presence. Doc Henderson visited regularly to check on Clara's progress, pronouncing her healthy and strong. "This baby is going to come when it is ready and not a moment before," he predicted. He was right. Clara went into labor on a snowy February morning in 1880, 18 months after Grant had first found her. The labor was long and difficult, lasting through the day and into the night. Grant paced outside the bedroom door, nearly wearing a groove in the floorboards as he listened to Clara's cries. "First babies take their time," Martha assured him. "She is doing fine." Finally, just before midnight, a baby's cry split the air. Grant burst through the door to find Clara propped up against pillows, sweaty and exhausted but smiling, with a tiny bundle in her arms. "We have a son," she announced. "A beautiful, perfect son." Grant approached slowly, almost reverently, and looked down at the red-faced infant. His son. His and Clara's child. The miracle of it nearly drove him to his knees. "Can I hold him?" he asked. Clara carefully transferred the baby to Grant's arms. "Be careful of his head." Grant cradled his son with infinite gentleness, staring down at the tiny face in wonder. "He is perfect," he breathed. "Absolutely perfect. Hello, little man. I am your father, and I promise I will always keep you and your mother safe." "What should we name him?" Clara asked. They had discussed names for months but had not been able to agree. Now, looking at their son, Grant said, "What about Thomas?" "After your father." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "You would do that, name him after my father. Your parents would be so proud of you if they could see you now. It seems fitting to honor them this way." "Thomas Grant Dawson," Clara said, testing it out. "Tommy, I love it." "Then Tommy it is." Thomas Grant Dawson proved to be a healthy, happy baby who rarely cried and seemed to find the whole world endlessly fascinating. Clara recovered quickly from the birth, and soon the house was filled with the sounds of a growing family. The years passed in a blur of happiness. When Tommy was 2, Clara discovered she was pregnant again. This time she gave birth to a daughter they named Elizabeth after Grant's mother, a girl with her mother's green eyes and her father's dark hair. 3 years after that came another son, James, who had Clara's auburn hair and Grant's quiet, steady nature. The ranch prospered under Grant's careful management. He bought more land, increased his herd, and became known as one of the most successful ranchers in the area. Clara's reputation as a music teacher grew, and students came from as far as 20 miles away for lessons. Together, they built a life that was rich not in money but in love and purpose and community. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Grant took Clara back to the spot by the river where he had first told her he loved her. The children stayed with Martha for the night, giving them rare time alone together. 10 years, Clara marveled, leaning against Grant's shoulder as they watched the sunset. "It feels like yesterday and forever at the same time." "Do you ever regret it?" Grant asked. "Giving up your life in Nashville, the culture and music and everything you had there?" "Never. Not for one single moment." Clara turned to face him. "Grant, you gave me more than safety on that trail. You gave me courage. You showed me what it means to be truly brave, to face fear and pain and still keep moving forward. Everything I am now, everything we have built together, started that day when you stopped to help a stranger." "You would have survived without me," Grant said. "You are one of the strongest people I have ever known. Maybe I would have survived, but I would not have truly lived." Clara took his hand and placed it over her heart. You taught me how to live, Grant Dawson. You showed me that courage is not about being fearless. It is about being afraid and loving anyway, trusting anyway, hoping anyway. You showed me what courage means. Grant pulled her close, this woman who had transformed his life in ways he could never have imagined. You showed me the same thing. Before I met you, I was just existing, working and building, but never really connecting with anyone. You taught me how to open my heart, how to trust and love completely. We saved each other, Clara. We did, she agreed, rising on her toes to kiss him. And we will keep saving each other every day for the rest of our lives. They stood together as the sun sank below the horizon, wrapped in each other's arms, knowing they had found something rare and precious. Their love had been forged in crisis and tempered by time, growing stronger with each passing year. The years continued to roll by. Tommy grew into a thoughtful young man who loved books and music like his mother, but had his father's steady, reliable nature. Elizabeth was wild and spirited, more comfortable on horseback than in the parlor, with a gift for understanding animals. James combined the best traits of both parents, equally at home helping his father with cattle or playing piano with his mother. Grant and Clara grew older together, their faces gaining lines and their hair turning gray, but their love never diminished. They were partners in every sense of the word, working side by side to maintain the ranch and raise their children. In 1895, Tommy married a sweet girl from town named Sarah, and the following year they made Grant and Clara grandparents for the first time. Holding his tiny grandson, Grant felt the circle of life complete itself in a way that filled him with profound gratitude. "Thank you," he told Clara that night as they sat on their porch watching the stars come out, "for everything, for loving me, for building this life with me, for giving me a family." "Thank you for stopping on that trail," Clara replied, taking his hand, "for choosing to help a stranger, for being the kind of man who sees someone in trouble and does not look away." "I will always stop," Grant promised, "and I will always choose you." Elizabeth never married, choosing instead to work the ranch alongside her father and eventually take it over when Grant grew too old for the heavy labor. She was brilliant with horses, breeding and training them until the Dawson Ranch became known throughout Oklahoma for its quality stock. James became a teacher like his mother, eventually taking over all her piano students and expanding to teach other instruments as well. He married a girl who played violin, and together they filled their home with music and laughter. As Grant and Clara entered their 70s, they often sat together on their porch in the evenings, watching the sunset and reminiscing about their life together. The ranch that had started with just Grant and a dream now supported 3 generations, a living testament to what could be built with hard work and love. "You remember that day on the trail?" Clara asked one summer evening, the air sweet with the scent of wildflowers. "When you found me?" "Every detail," Grant replied. "The way the sun hit your hair, the fear in your eyes, the strength in your voice even though you were injured. I knew right then that you were special." "I was terrified," Clara admitted. "Of the men who attacked me, of dying alone, of never having a chance to really live. And then you appeared, like something out of a dream, and everything changed." "We changed each other," Grant said. "That is what love does. It transforms us, makes us braver and better than we ever could have been alone." Clara rested her head on his shoulder, feeling the steady beat of his heart. "You showed me what courage means, Grant. Real courage, the kind that lasts. And you have shown me every day since then, in the way you love our family, in the way you keep your promises, in the way you get up every morning ready to face whatever the day brings." "You have shown me the same," Grant said, kissing the top of her head. "You are my courage, Clara, my heart." My everything." They sat in comfortable silence as the sky darkened and stars began to appear. Two people who had found each other in the most unlikely circumstances and built a love that would last generations. Around them, the ranch hummed with life, the legacy they had created together. In 1902, Grant fell ill with pneumonia during a particularly harsh winter. Clara nursed him with the same fierce determination she had shown in everything else, refusing to accept that their time together might be ending. And Grant, true to form, fought his way back to health through sheer stubbornness and his unwillingness to leave Clara alone. "You are not getting rid of me that easily," he told her when he was finally out of danger. "I made a promise on our wedding day to love you all our days, and I intend to keep it." "You had better," Clara said, tears streaming down her face. "I am not done with you yet, Grant Dawson." He lived another 8 years, dying peacefully in his sleep at the age of 82 with Clara beside him. She held his hand as his breathing slowed and finally stopped, feeling her heart break even as she whispered words of love and gratitude for their life together. But Clara was not done either. She lived another 5 years, spending her days teaching music, playing with her grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and keeping the memory of Grant alive through stories of their life together. On warm summer evenings, she would sit on the porch and tell the children about the day their grandfather had found her on the trail. "He saved my life that day," she would say. "But more than that, he showed me how to truly live. He taught me that courage is not about being fearless. It is about facing your fear and doing what needs to be done anyway. It is about loving someone completely even though you know loss is inevitable. It is about building something lasting even when the world feels uncertain." "Did you love him very much?" her youngest great-granddaughter asked one day. "More than words can express," Clara replied. "He was my partner, my best friend, my greatest adventure. And even though he is gone now, I carry him with me every day. That is what real love does. It becomes part of who you are, woven into your very soul." Clara Morrison Dawson passed away peacefully in her sleep in the spring of 1915, at the age of 81. She was buried next to Grant on a hill overlooking the ranch they had built together, under a spreading oak tree. Their children and grandchildren gathered to remember them, sharing stories of the love and courage that had defined both their lives. Years later, when asked about their grandparents, the Dawson children would tell the story of how Grant had found Clara injured on a trail and saved her life. But they would always emphasize that the real story was not about a single act of heroism. It was about what came after two people choosing each other every day, building a life of courage and love that would echo through generations. Because that was the truth of Grant and Clara's story. It did not end with a rescue or even with a wedding. It lived on in the ranch they had built, in the music Clara had brought to the community, in the children and grandchildren who carried their names and their values forward. And on summer evenings, when the wind blew through the valley and the sunset painted the sky gold and pink, people said you could still feel their presence there. A reminder that true courage is not about grand gestures but about showing up every day with an open heart, ready to love and be loved, no matter what challenges come. The legacy of Grant and Clara Dawson was not measured in land or cattle or money, though they had left their family well provided for. It was measured in the lives they had touched, the love they had shared, and the courage they had shown in choosing each other and building something lasting. Their story became legend in Muskogee, Oklahoma, passed down through generations as a reminder that sometimes the most important decision you will ever make is to stop when you see someone who needs help. Because you never know when that moment might change not just their life but yours as well. Grant had stopped on a dusty trail in 1878 to help an injured woman he did not know. That single choice had led to a love that lasted a lifetime, a family that spanned generations, and a legacy that would never be forgotten. And if anyone had asked Clara in those final peaceful years of her life what she would want people to remember about their story, she would have said simply, "He showed me what courage means, and then he spent the rest of his life proving it every single day." That was the real story. Not of a rescue, but of a love built on mutual courage, respect, and an unwavering commitment to face whatever life brought them together. And in the end, that was the greatest gift Grant and Clara gave to each other, and to everyone who knew them, the knowledge that courage is not about being fearless, but about loving anyway, hoping anyway, building anyway, even when the world feels uncertain and the future is unknown. It is about showing up every day with an open heart and doing what needs to be done, whether that means stopping to help a stranger on a trail or simply holding your partner's hand through whatever challenges come. Their story proved that the most extraordinary lives are often built from ordinary moments of courage, strung together day after day, year after year, until they become something beautiful and lasting. That August day in 1878, when Grant Dawson found Clara Morrison injured on a trail, changed both their lives forever. But the real miracle was not in the finding or even in the saving. It was in what they chose to do afterward, to build a life together based on courage, trust, and enduring love. And that, more than anything else, was what made their story worth telling.